Hi, everybody. Bill Nissen here. And I'm going to touch on a topic here that, frankly, I don't think is going to be popular around a lot of Christian circles, but it, I don't care. It's something I really feel is a calling in what God has raised us up to be and what Christ's mission is in our lives. And that is to carry an unoffendable spirit. Yeah. Well, Bill, so you're saying you never get offended? No, I'm not saying I've never been offended. I've definitely been offended. But my calling, what I'm climbing to is embracing God's call to not be offended. And I can say I think there's been a massive change through the years where I I can truly say in many situations I don't take offense where I would have in the past. Now, you might be asking, where do I get this from? Well, let's go to Colossians chapter 3. I'm going to touch on Genesis 45 as well, but Colossians chapter 3, verse 12 says, "Put on then, as God's chosen ones, holy and beloved, compassionate hearts, kindness, humility, meekness." By the way, meekness does not mean weakness, but meekness and patience, bearing with one another, and if one has a complaint against another, forgiving each other as the Lord has forgiven you. So you also must forgive. Notice it doesn't say we suggest that you forgive, it says you must forgive. And above all these, put on love, which binds everything together in perfect harmony. And let the peace of Christ rule in your hearts, to which indeed you were called, to one body, and be thankful. In one sense, to be offended means that your greatest concern is with yourself, what they say about you, what they say that's hurtful to you. And I've noticed when I have found myself hiding myself in Christ and getting to know my identity in Christ, that really does diminish drastically. And that's because I believe it is part of the fruits of the Spirit, because we are called to forgive. And we see this highlighted as far as forgiving in the Lord's Prayer, where, it says, and forgive those who have trespassed against us, or debtors, whichever version you want to grab. And he highlights at the very end, says, so it is imperative that you must forgive. This is the heart of God, is to forgive even your darkest enemies. And that's something that is hard to wrap your head around until it becomes revelation. And I think Joseph carried that revelation in Genesis 45. We see this also mentioned in Psalm 105. I mean, think about his story. Here he was, he was given this multicolored coat. He had his father's favor, and his other brothers became jealous to the point where they abandoned him and threw him in a pit and sold him as a slave into Egypt. Talk about having a right to be offended. And then once he's thrown into slavery, he is accused wrongly of behavior he hasn't done. And then he's thrown into prison. And at the end of all this, check this out. In Genesis 45, so he is able to understand the dreams of Pharaoh. And so Pharaoh puts him second most powerful man in the world. And his brothers who betrayed him are coming to him for food during the famine. And this was his heart. When they came to him, he didn't say, get out of here because you've betrayed me and I'm offended with what you did to me. No, this is what he said. Come near to me. They weren't saying, I'm sorry yet. They were shocked when they found out it was him. They were, oh no. He goes, come near to me, please. And they came near and he said, I am your brother Joseph, whom you sold into slavery. He's not forgetting that they did that. And now do not be distressed or angry with yourselves because you sold me here. So he's not even asking them to regret it. For God sent me before you to preserve life. And then he goes on, he said, this was God's plan. I'm not offended with you. And that is something that can only come when you know you've been rescued by God yourself. So if you feel like you've attained your place in life because of your good works or your right choices, then frankly, you're deceived. From a Christian perspective, you are deceived. What right do I have to not forgive someone when I have been forgiven so much? And so I've taken that on as a mandate from the Lord. Not saying I'm perfect at it, but I'm seeing the standard that I'm embracing is that I am not going to be offended by anyone. And I've had a lot of people say things to me recently that should have really caused me to be offended deeply, but I'm not because I've been forgiven so much. And I am embracing this new identity that I'm discovering has been mine from the beginning that Christ is wanting to form in me. So I truly believe that someday this will be something I fully see the freedom of, and I'm going after it with everything in me. And I encourage you to do as well.